And then more, we want to go live on Facebook. Choose where you want to post. Share on a page you manage. No, not well. First the upper middle. Come on. No, and this would be hello. I believe we're live, but I'm trying to make sure that we make sure this is all working. And so, sure, where's the go live button? I think it's working. I don't know. I tell ya, is anybody on Facebook to tell me whether they can see it or not? So audience settings, say public. There we go. Come on. Let's check it out. Sorry. All right, I hope this is work. I want to go live, so what's the deal here? Well, that computer's not working. Alrighty. You're on your phone, on your computer? How do we do this? I apologize if anybody's watching. I want to make sure we're live, and I want to make sure it's working. And so before we get started, and so oh, say something about, I think something is wrong. There we go. I see it now. Oh man, that's hilarious. Happening now live. There we go. Yay! All right. Welcome everybody to Beating Live with Rochelle and Cheryl and Jean. We are the UMBS Upper Midwest Bead Society, and I'm the new monthly meeting coordinator for the year 2021. And so we're trying to bring you some fun, exciting things to know what we're doing at our Bead Society, which meets on Monday nights, the first Monday of every month. And we meet virtually and we stream it through Facebook here. And so today we've got 3 of us. And so Cheryl, at 1 o'clock, what are you going to be doing for us?
I'm going to be doing a basic ornament, and I'm going to bring it up and show. So basic ornament. And then afterwards, I'll have a bunch of my other ornaments I can show what they look like.
Wonderful. What a fun technique. And then at 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, Gino Donnell, what are you going to be doing for us?
Today we're going to be learning to knit. And if you already know how to knit, you can probably fast forward through this. And if, however, we'll be knitting with crochet yarn to start with, just to get the basic technique. But then we're going to switch to knitting with wire. Okay, different thing altogether. And this is the project we're going to make.
Wonderful. What a neat little project, a different way of knitting. And then at 3 o'clock, I'm going to be making the Compass Rose pendant. And because I was so busy getting set up, I forgot to put all my stuff up. So check in at 3 o'clock and it'll be a great surprise, but it's a really neat little seed bead and check glass bead pendant, or you can make them into earrings. And so it'll be super fun. So it's a seed bead weaving technique. So now we've got Cheryl that's going to be beading her ornaments. And so take it away, Cheryl.
All right. So what we use on this project is we use a 2-inch bulb. And most of this project is actually worked just on our bead mat, not on the bulb. So that makes it easier. I get 7 feet of fire line. I like 6-pound fire line. And usually I use 5 to 6 feet of thread. But if you do about 7, you can do almost the entire project without having to add a thread. So it's worth fighting with a little longer thread. And so we're going to start. I have 2 colors of size 11 seed beads, color A, color B, and then I have a drop. And this is a 3.4 millimeter drop, or just a 3 millimeter drop would work fine too. So we're going to start out by doing our top ring, and that's going to be 4 seed beads, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a drop. And then what I'd like to do with the drops is in every row we'll have 8 drops. So if I put those aside, then I know I've completed a row when I've gone through them. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. So 4, and then I'm going to slip this down. I have not put a knot or a stopper bead, so I need to be careful I don't slip them off my thread. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do this 8 times to use all our drops. And it's fun. We've done a lot of these different projects this over the years, and it's the colors that just make such a different, each one unique. The colors of the beads and the colors of the bulbs. And I will say we've had a little bit of a hard time finding the bulbs this year. Usually Michaels carries a large selection, and they didn't carry them at all this year. And I really think that has to do with just the whole weird market, but we could find them at Hobby Lobby. So. Okay, so there's all my beads for my top ring. So there's a little trick to tying this ring. So there's all my beads. Instead of just tying a knot, I like to pull this and hold it up off of my bead mat. And then I will start my knot by just having one little knot away from the beads. And then I do my other little twist, or the other knot. Bring the one knot down to the other. And I don't want them touching the beads till the knots, of course it won't cooperate. I want the knot and then pull it down tight. And sorry, that didn't work well because I was holding it trying to let the camera see, so it didn't work. Then I do a surgeon's knot. So that's going through the loop twice with my thread, and that'll make it a real good secure knot. And then when I go to start my netting, I don't want to net right where I have my knot. So I'm going to move forward 4 seed beads and a drop. And now I'm ready to start my netting. So this row is going to be 5B and a drop. So let's pull our 8 drops. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 5B. 1, 2, 3, 5. And then another 5. So at the bottom of our net will be the drop. Go through. So I'm coming out here, the thread's going this way, so I want to move forward and go through this drop. And then you can see that little drop is at the bottom there. So we're going to do this all the way around. And what's really cool as you do this, it looks like a flower that's getting bigger as you go. 5, 1. And through the next drop. In this project, it's kind of reversible until we put it on the bulb. So you don't need to worry if you want to work in a different direction. You can change directions at any time. Just make sure to complete your row. And one thing I always like to talk about is that ornaments are no longer just for Christmas trees anymore. They make great decorations in your home. They have all sorts of fancy hangers you can put them on. And I've started giving them as like hostess gifts and things like that. So. And if you have any questions as we're going along, I think Rochelle can see them and let me know. And I won't do the whole ornament. I've got it towards the end completed, but I for sure want to show you how to finish the bottom. But we'll do a couple rows just so you get the feel of it. Okay. I'm hoping you can see my hands in there. It looks good. So now we're coming to the end of this row. I know that because I picked up my last drop. Plus, of course, I can see it on my pattern. So I'm going to go into my last drop in the top row. And then now this next row, we're going to work off the bottom drops of this. So I need to step up or step forward through the first 5 B beads and then through the drop at the bottom of that net. And then now we're ready to start our next row. So our next row is going to be 5A. And then a drop. And 5A. Oh, and I forgot to lay out my drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it really isn't that big of a deal at the beginning here, but when we get into the row 3, 4, the further rows, it gets confusing when you're at the end of the row. So sometimes it's nice just to know 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So then we need to move to our next drop. So be sure that you're looking for the next drop at the bottom of the next net. Some people have tried to catch the one up there and we don't want that. So we want to make sure we're keeping our net clean all the way around. And also if you were to do that, then you would find that when you get to the, you won't be at the end of the row when you've used all your drops. I was kind of looking forward to making this one with these metallic red and metallic green beads on the silver metallic bulb. Let's see how that turns out. Now, other people have played around with these patterns, so they'll make the entire net the same color. So they're using different color every other netting. It's just fun what you can come up with. I have seen people use this similar design and use size 15s. Or use something different instead of a drop at the end of your net. Okay, so now my tail's kind of getting in my way, but I never just cut him off. I'd like to hold on to my tail, and I'm always telling people make friends with your tail because they always tell you where the starting is, and it always makes a good handle. So I like to hold on to it for a little while anyhow. But if it drives you crazy, you can tie it off. Okay, so I'm at the end. I use my last drop. I'm going in, and instead of making 2 stitches, I'm just going to go into the drop, go into all 5 seed beads, and I usually look at the bottom, make sure that needle's gone through every.
Maybe what's your picture?
Say what?
Picture.
Did you lose me?
I'm losing the picture. There we go.
Share screen? I don't know why.
I see your name. I don't see you, my dear. What's going on?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. So something's going on with your video setting. Maybe your
Oh, it does say my video has stopped.
camera has turned off. And so try it again, or maybe ask to link back. And so yeah, we lost your, because we got mine, but we need you back again. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're trying to get Cheryl back for all of you that and so we're getting there. So we really appreciate your patience. And, we're trying to get her back. Stop Zoom, rejoin session. Okay, we'll be right back, folks. There we go. So resume. Okay, we got Cheryl back again now.
Okay, did you start something else or do you want me to continue?
Oh, we want you to continue.
Oh,
Or
I'm
yeah,
sorry, I
keep
just
going.
don't know.
Nope, you're good. Just keep on going.
Okay, I'm going to set myself up here. Okay, I was at the end of the row. Well, that was a good place. Okay, now we're going to go to 7B. And let's see, how are we doing on our time? I'm just going to do a couple and then I'm going to move on to closing in case I lose you again. At least you guys will have a finished idea. So this next row, we're going to have 7B. And if you want the pattern, get ready with a pen and paper. As soon as I do a couple of these, I will tell you how many beads are in each row. Four, five, 6, 7. Okay, so then now I'm going to jump over to my next. Remember again, not to do here. And this is where it becomes a little harder to see. You want to see that you have an open drop, not one that's connected. But if you have those 8 down here and you get to the end and find out, oops, that's not right, you'll see real quickly what you did wrong. But if you don't catch it, you'll just keep going and then all of a sudden you've got a huge mess. So see what I meant about a nice flower? Now let me really show you what the flower looks like. So as you keep going, this is what it starts to look like. Now, if you've got your pen and paper ready, we started out with 4A and a drop in the top row, and then 5B, a drop, 5A, a drop, 7B, a drop, 7A, a drop, 9B, and then we go to 5A. And that's where I'm at now, is I'm kind of starting on the 5A. And you can certainly tell, because there's so fewer beads, this is where it's starting to go around the curve and starting to tighten up. So I'm going to slip that on our bulb. And then I can start pulling it tight. So at the beginning of row 5, you could have, or at the beginning of this row, you could have done that, or you can wait till you get to about here. And then you pull everything up tight. So now I'm going to kind of hold this at the bottom so I can see what I'm doing at the bottom. Shoot, and I just pulled my thread off. Okay, so I've got one last to do here. So I'm doing 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now this is where it gets interesting. So I'm gonna do this. Is every bulb is different sized and all your beads are different sized. So if you get small beads and a large bulb, you could have a little bit of a problem. And I've got an example to show you. So what the pattern calls for is that we're going to use 2 beads in between these drops, and that'll pull it up tight. And I'm going to show you on this one, we used 3 beads and pulled it up tight. Here's the one, this used 2. This is where we ran into problems. So this bulb was huge, the beads were small, and you really can't tell. And so as I went around and put in my 2, it wouldn't even close up. So now in this case, we used 5. So, and it's fine. The ornament looks fine. Oops, there we go. It's just that you need it to close up. So every time it's a little bit of a guess, is it going to work right? So I've got 2, and I'll just go into that next drop. Again, remember we're at the drop at the very bottom. Ooh, I don't want to lose that guy. 2. See how that's pulling in nice. So this might be too much actually. 2. 2. Pulling in nice. Okay. Now, one thing with this, remember when I said it could be reversible. So however you had those drops, they may or may not have been pointing forward. As we tighten this up, those drops should pop. So they are facing forward, but we're going to want to look at that before we tighten it completely. And 2. And I'm going to move forward. If you move forward a little bit, you get a little better leverage when you go to tighten it. And that tightened up very nice. So now I'm going to just look around, and I just want to make sure no drops are tucked under. And they look, oh, this one was tucked under. They're looking pretty good. Okay, now I always go around a second time in the bottom row. And for anybody who's doing any of my more complicated ornaments, sometimes this second row will really be needed, and see how I'm just really pulling tight, will really be needed to pull everything in. Sometimes the first round doesn't pull it in tight. And then you go all the way around.
Hey,
Okay.
Cheryl, question about the rows. So it's a total of 8 rows, correct?
No, it's a total of 8 nets all the way around. So how many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. Somebody counted better than me. So yes, total of 8 rows.
Okay, cool.
So the fun thing is, now this is very basic. This is a simple pattern, specifically for beginners, but I'll tell you, even very crafty children are able to do this one. But once you've got this basic down, you can just have a ball with changing the types of beads, making them shorter or bigger. You know, it's just whenever you're designing, just know that you'll have some tearing and redoing. I'm not going to show you the knotting because there's some other things I want to talk about here, but what I would do when I've gone all the way around, I've pulled it as tight as I can. I go up to here and I do a couple of half hitches. You know, maybe I better do that in case somebody doesn't know what half hitch is. Okay, so I'm going to go up, make sure I've got it pulled really tight. And then a half hitch is where you slip the needle under the thread and then go through the loop. But see how that got kind of a mess there? So now you've got to just make sure that thread ends up where you wanted it. Pull it tight. Now that's a half of a knot there. You have to do another one exactly in the same place to get a good tight knot. So there again, it got really loose. I'm hoping you can see all that. And that's 2 half hitches. I put my thumb over it just to secure it as I'm pulling tight. And then I move my thread through a few more beads. I'll bring it across my drop and up here, a few beads. Okay, now when I'm cutting off my thread, I don't want to just snip it. I want to pull tight up on my working thread and then push down with my cutter. And so I'm really giving it some force. And what that's going to make sure is that I don't have a little whisker of a thread hanging out there. I want it to snap back into the beadwork. And there's the finished bulb. So again, the different bulbs you use really make a different look, like a solid bulb compared to a transparent bulb. And of course, the beads do everything in the world for it. Here's one where I took that very simple bulb, this exact same pattern, and I started adding a bunch of swags and fringes. So as you start getting more interested in these and doing different things, start having fun. You know, I was doing some swags and fringes on the sides, and then you can work down and do some layers down here and some more layers down here. Just go crazy. But the very basic simple bulb is, I think, just fall. So that's this one. This is lots of fun. I hope you give them a try, see what you think. So I've been doing bulbs, ornaments for a long time. And I'll just, I thought I lost video again. I'll just start showing you some of the ornaments that I've done. And if you have any questions, let us know. And I've done this before, and then people will call and tell me, oh, I really like that red and green one. You know, I'd like to talk about that. I'm going to tell you the names of these ornaments. So if you do have some questions, I'll know what you're talking about. So this is the tiny ornaments, and I'm just going to hold it up so you can see they're really, really tiny. And these are fun to do. You can do with fringe and swags, or do very simple. Every year I come up with a new pattern, and this year's pattern it's called the Epic Swag. This is definitely an intermediate project. You should definitely have done some of those basics, at least quite a few of those, to get the basics down, and be very comfortable with bead weaving, because there's a lot of steps in that. And then to the side here, I have the butterfly ornament. That's these ones here. That's been my most popular ornament until this swag. And I think the reason it's called a butterfly is you can see at the joints, by accident, I used a drop in a crystal and it forms little butterflies there. So, but I think why people really like this one is, while it looks nice there, it has some nice fringe to it as well. This one's the Pinecone. This one's been my best seller. I've had a ton of these and I've sold a ton of them. So I have one little guy to show you. So these ones are called the Swags and Sparkle. And this is one I've taught quite a bit. I have kits and directions for that. This one's called the Snowflake. And this is one that's nice and tight up to the bulb. It doesn't have any fringe. It's just a nice basic tight to the bulb. This is the Angel. And this is the only one I have that's just a slip over. It's not attached completely to the bulb. And some people like that, you know, if they have cats and they're worried about the bulbs breaking. But it's not my favorite. I like it to be completely enclosed. And then this is the only one that I've done on the large bulbs. So this is called the crystal drop. Big popular one this year has been this one. It's called the Blizzard. So it has all these little snowflakes through it. And I just did these two this week. So if people have been waiting to see the new ones, those are the two new ones I did this week. Here's a flower. This one's kind of interesting because while it has a neat flower that's made and put on, I love the top crisscross and drop that has. And I've been trying to recreate something that looks like that for a whole ornament and haven't quite got it yet. This one's called the Kaleidoscope. And again, one without fringe or any frilly stuff to it. That's a simple netting. So it's simple netting, but it does have some fun beads added. Star, kind of self-explanatory. This one's the balloon. And to me, it looked like a hot air balloon type thing. And then this is the Imperial. And so this actually was the start. I made this Imperial. I taught it to one student, kind of started writing directions, and we looked at it and said, nope, it's too much work. It's too confusing, too much. And so we went to this one, and people have liked this one. So that's that. And then I've called this a messy swag. Haven't decided what I'm going to do with that yet. It's a new one also this year, still playing with. And then this is kind of just a fun netting. And then this is, I did this one for the Toho challenge one year. So the colors were chosen by Toho and did that all up. So that'll never be directions and I'll never try to recreate that again. So that's my repertoire at this point. Every year I try to come up with something new. So who knows what next year will hold. So how are we doing on time, Rochelle?
Let's see. Oh, you've got like 15 more minutes. Does anybody have any more questions? Grace was talking about using bugles. And so how well do bugles work in these patterns?
Okay, so bugles are fun and I do like to use them. So as you can see in the angel, I've used bugles on the skirt, but mostly what I like the bugles for is in the fringe. So if you can see in here, I have a 6mm fringe or 6mm bugles. In this one, I use 12mm bugles. And I'm surprised I'm not seeing more. I know I really like using bugles for the fringe. They're not great for using on the bulb itself because of course they don't curve around the bulb. Now this messy swag that I've been playing with, this is not ready to make into a design because I haven't quite figured it out. But this one, I was really trying to use 12mm bugles in the swags. And it's just not quite there yet. But yes, I love bugles as well. So I do try to use them. The other thing I really have been using a lot is the 2-hole bugles. I use them there. I've had them in the Pinecone, very much so in the butterfly. And they're just a lot of fun. So you can do different things off of those as well. So I try to include as many fun beads as I can. And I'll get some people that they want just the basics. Just give me seed beads and one other thing like we did today. Others want just a whole ton of different beads like this pine cone. It's just every row has just a different style of bead in it. So.
And so the 2-hole beads work really well, obviously, as connections for all.
Yes, and I do use them a lot. So in the new one this year, there's super duos. Actually, I'm going to take that back. Those are mini duos I used in that. And then super duos in the butterfly. And you'll see in the snowflake, the center of that is 2-hole lentils. And then a lot of the diamond duos or gem duos. And then this one had gem duos and crescents. Oh, and the balloon as well. Had a lot of 2-hole beads. But a lot of people just don't like having a massive, huge material list with all sorts of different beads. So I try to one year do it very simple and then the next year have it crazy. So some of those I have kits available because they are just so hard to come up with. Did you lose me, Rochelle, or did I lose you?
You're still here. And so my question is, so then do you sell kits or patterns or how you promote your new ornaments each month?
So in the past, it's been a big deal for me to show them at Bead and Button, and I've taught them at Bead and Button. Well, that avenue is kind of gone now. So I've started putting some of my ornaments are out on Etsy. I do have kits that I don't have out on Etsy. I have a Facebook group that's for kits, but I'm still kind of gathering, getting kits and directions ready. So some of them are available. Some of them I've had a few people calling and asking. So like this one, I've had several people call this week that they wanted this one, the Blizzard one. And so I'm days away from having that up on Etsy, just the directions. And then we can always talk about kits if people want kits.
Terrific. And so then you'll post your link to your Etsy shop in the comments of this video on Facebook. Okay.
Yep, I'll do that in my Facebook group too. So yep, I'll put them both out there for you.
Cool. And then people can private message you through Facebook as well.
Yep, or email me. I think I had my email shown on my bead mat. So
How long does it take to make one of those fancy ones with all the fringes and stuff?
okay, so to give you the whole scope, so the one we did today, I can do in an hour, and I can do it in less than an hour. The new one I had this year, this is the one that is the most, and this is about an 8-hour project. The butterfly, surprisingly, is very similar, but this one's about a 6-hour project. So it looks very similar, but not quite as intense. And then you probably look at this one being a 4-hour. So it just depends on, the fringe is really what adds a lot of time.
And what thread or stringing material do you prefer to use for these?
Okay, so for the ornament and around the bulb itself, I almost always use 6-pound fireline, but any fringe or swags, I use 1G. You've got to use a softer flowing thread. So it won't, what happens if you use the fireline is you pull tight on it and then it sticks out like Pippi Longstocking ponytails. So you want them to flow. And it's really important that they have some movement to them.
And we have a question from Judith about what size bulb do you generally use? You had a mini size and a normal size and a giant size.
Yep.
What size is that technically?
Okay, so the mini, this one that I do almost all my bulbs on is, they call it a 2-inch bulb. But if you look at the packages, it says it's 1.7 inch or 4.5 centimeters. So this is almost everything. The big bulb, I honestly don't know. I think it's a 4-inch bulb, but the pattern is made to go around any larger size bulb because it has so much open space. So it's meant to hang and swag, and there are directions how to tighten it up at the bottom if you want it more tight. So the tiny one, I have no clue what this is, but you'll find these are the ones that are in like those cube boxes where they'll have 20 of them and they're set up in a box of a cube. A lot of times they'll come in like a nice color combination. And so it's fun to do just this simple basic one over a bunch of corresponding colors. So, and this one is using size 11 seed beads and a triangle as your little dot. So if we still have some more time, I can tell you what I was doing for the fringe and swag on this one.
Sure. We had also Pearl asked to show the first round again. So now that we've gotten back all this inspiration, how do they start again?
Okay, let me put you up here and I'll just talk about it. So the first round is using 4 seed beads and 1 drop, 8 times. So when I start my thread, I do not put a stopper bead or anything. I just hold onto my thread, 4 seed bead, 4 A's, a drop, 4 A's, a drop, 8 times. And then you tie that into a loop. Now, one thing I also should recommend is that when you get your first loop done, that first top ring, you should try it on your bulb. It is possible that your, yikes, that doesn't look good there at all, but it is possible that your beads are too small and it wouldn't fit on there well. It's rare in this one, you can see there's quite a bit of room in there, but in other ones, it happens. And if that happens, then you just need to redo your ring with 1 more bead in each section. But I'd like it to sit up tight to that bulb. So, and then once you have your ring in, I keep my tail. Now, some people feel they need to cut their tail off right away. I recommend when you're going to cut your tail off, sew forward a few beads, tie a couple half hitches, sew forward a few more, and then snip it off. It's really unnecessary because you've got a very good knot there, but I always over knot. So then you go off of your drop, and that's where you start with 5. So if you didn't catch it, I can tell you the rows again. The first ring was 4A and a D. Second row, 2B and a D. Third row, 5A and a B. 7B, I'm sorry, 5A and a D. 7B and a D. 7A and a D. 9B. 5A. And then hopefully 2 as your bottom row, 2 in between the drops that are already there. But that always can vary. Let's see. Oh,
Do you
yeah.
always use size 11s or do you ever use size 15s or 8? Like your typical size is size 11, correct? And then
It is a size 11 on this size bulb works really well. You can move to 15 easily. And there are a couple, I have some sections that use 15s. Of course, then it takes more time when you use the smaller beads, but it does look more delicate. But no, size 11 almost always, never size 8s because they're just clunky. You know, they stick out too far away from the bulb. So, and I say never, and I really, now that I say that, I do have a couple that I put some on. And I think it was this one was a Toho challenge project. And it had 8s in there. So I did get some 8s in there. But as you can see, what's sitting up against the bulb is really the 11s.
So interesting. I mean, the amount of different things and textures that you can create, I just love it.
Yep. And of course, the real fun is the different swags, the different embellishments. I was at Quick Trip today getting gas, and they had a word that comes up on the computer, and the word for the day is festoon, and it's to embellish, or and it's like, oh, that's next year's ornament name. I'm gonna design it around the word festoon. So if you wanted to, I can just talk about the swags I added on this one. Is I was trying to do 3 rows of swags, and I just did a row and then a couple more beads on this one and a couple more beads on this one. When I do swags, I like to use an uneven amount. It sits nicer. Of course, these aren't sitting very nice, but and then this has 3 little fringes on the end. A fringe with a little loop, a full fringe down, and then a fringe with a little loop. And I like to do this one using the drops that I had through the rest of the ornament to add some continuity to it. And I had planned I was going to have another layer hanging down at the bottom, but ran out of time. So, and something else I can tell you about is working on this one. This is a fun little flower that you make ahead of time before you start adding them all together. This is definitely an intermediate project. There's a lot of back and forths, but we started talking about what different beads you could use instead of the diamond duos, like any of the 2-hole beads. It could be a lot of fun. It does have to be spread out a little bit, so like the 2-hole lentils probably wouldn't work, but it's fun to start thinking, how can you use different things? We did try something bigger in here, and that didn't work. It was too much. But as you can see with my colors, not very many of them are really red and green. I do a lot of blues. Well, my colors are jewel tones, so I like to do a lot of different things there. But I like to use all the different colors of bulbs too, and that's fun to be dictated by that.
So what happens if the bulb breaks because they're glass, right?
They are glass and you need to be really careful with them. But I did for a while. I was designing so like with this one, if the bulb broke, you can just cut off the bottom loop. And I usually would make a knot to make sure the bottom ring is separated, cut off the bottom loop and redo it. But most of the ornaments I do are too complicated. And really, if your bulb breaks, what's going to happen is you're going to lose all your fringing. So like in this one, I would cut off the top ring, keep all the stuff that's underneath, and then just redo the top ring. But there's no, you have to be careful because it'll start unraveling. Everything will start going, and you just have to know you're going to have some major work fixing it. But it's usually well worth doing so.
Okay.
So, no, I don't have a complete answer. I tried for a while there, but they're just too complicated, and I do too much at the bottom. So.
Absolutely. After 6 to 8 hours worth of work, definitely I would do
Yeah.
a hair job, I think, before I started over.
Well, and some people have started looking for those silk bulbs or styrofoam bulbs, or you can do other things. But to me, the love I have is of glass, and I want it to be glass. So,
But it will work with any type of bulb, right?
Yep. Mainly it's the size. And frankly, if you find an odd size, you just modify it a little bit here and there. The big thing is you got to make it big enough to fit around the waist of it.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to fit up tight. I like my bulbs to fit tight, but I have some of them. I'm going to bring you over here. I have some that hang quite a bit off the bottom of the bulb.
Oh,
that's okay. I mean, there's no law that you can't have it hang down. It's just whatever, what fits best. So one of the ones that this has to fit perfect. I mean, it's up there tight, it's making a shape. So it really needs to be, and we do a lot of discussion how to get that bottom to pull tight to bring everything in. So it's just part of the design then.
very interesting. Absolutely. Super fun. And so yeah, 6-pound fire line and Toho 1G and a whole bunch of fun random beads and imagination.
That sounds perfect. Yep. Think about fun color combinations.
Perfect. Well, I can see that you've got decorations for every holiday. I would just want every day of the year. And yeah, so people would love to see your Facebook page and your Etsy page. And so be sure to post your links then so that everybody can follow you.
I sure will. Thanks so much, Rochelle.
Absolutely, anytime. And so now we are going to join Jean O'Donnell, and she's going to be knitting, showing you all your basic knitting skills and showing you how to knit with wire. And so a most unique knitting technique, knitting with wires. So let's just get the right camera here for Jean. And technical crazy video action here. Hold on, bear with me 1 second. Stop, computer. I really bear with me, patience here. What is going on? Holy technical crazy. Got Jean going on here. Let's see, is that the right camera? Maybe. Is Got the right camera? Yep, you've got your close up. That one is this
Yep.
camera right here. And so
That's
let's,
not what's on. My hand is on it now.
There we go. There we go. Now we should get it. We should get the right camera here.
I can learn to understand you much better if I can get familiar.
You can tell it's a new computer, folks. I really, really appreciate your patience with me. Windows 10 just updated on my computer and it just told me that, there you go. So let's make sure our Zoom meeting is back. Hello, I think we're back. And so I hope you can hear me. We are trying to get it back on here. Something went wrong. We understand. There we go. All right, I think we're back. So just let me know. I believe we're trying to get it blown up bigger so we can see it. But there we go. It's I believe we are live.
No, we're not. No, that's not moving.
Oh. Open Zoom. There we go. Meeting.
Yeah, see, there was a time delay because there was my hand picking the thing up.
I know. I'm sorry. We lost you again. All right. Okay. What is going on? See, we should be here. Stop video. Oh, okay, start video again. Return to meeting. Okay. Hopefully we're back here. Let's check it again. Okay. Okay, we are recording. I believe we're back. There we go. Golly gee. So thanks for bearing with us, everyone. I totally, whether it's the internet or whether it's me, but I believe your camera is right on, right in front of you there, Jean.
Yes.
Yeah, we got it. So take it away, Jean.
Great. I'm Jean O'Donnell, and normally I've got to say I'm a seed beater. I don't do an awful lot of wire work, but why is that thing doing that?
It's because it's your speaker view. So show them whatever you're going to show them. Unless you want it on your face, I can change
No, I
it.
really don't.
Okay, so
No,
there you
I
go.
don't, but I do want to show them the project that we're going to make today.
Okay, so then let me click on the other camera to help you out with that one.
All right.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. This is what we're making today.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
There we go. That's what we're making today. This is my, well, I'd say about the third piece of knitted wire work that I've done. This was the first piece right here. Okay, you can see that. All right. Kind of an inspiration from something I saw at the State Fair, in Minnesota State Fair. Somebody had knitted a piece with copper wire, and then did some other interesting things with it and showed it off in the Fine Arts Building. And I thought, wow, if somebody can knit with copper wire, I think I can knit with wire. So this scarf is 34 gauge wire, and then it has all kinds of 6/0 Demi beads in it. We're not doing that today. It took a long time. We're not doing that today.
We're doing something a lot simpler so
Okay.
that you're not too intimidated. We want to get you started, not scared.
Yeah, exactly. So this piece is a lot easier. The beadwork is just little dangles that we put here on the edges. And in fact, I wanted to show you how this works. It's really a simplistic piece. Okay, just a lobster claw clasp that I put on here on the pendant. This is all it is a piece of straight knitting, okay, with increases and decreases. That's all it is. So for those of you who do not know how to knit, we are going to learn to knit. Knitting needles come in all kinds of sizes, from something as small as these guys here, where they're really, really thin, to these, they're really huge. I did make a scarf on this with yarn at one point. Came out really nice. I was thinking the other day, okay, what would you actually knit with wire on these? You know what? You could knit with wire. I was thinking you could make a big curtain and then have crystals coming down all through the whole thing. It would be really fascinating. I'm not doing that today either. All right, so first thing I want to show you is the different, in knitting, there's only two stitches. There's the knit stitch and the purl stitch. That's all there is. However, if a person knits everything, all the stitches across and all the stitches on the way back again, you get this kind of a look. Okay. You want to switch to this?
Yeah, I'm gonna switch to cameras.
Okay.
I just have to get there.
Sure.
Our internet is messing with the Zoom program again, so we froze a second again.
Oh,
Um, Dang it. Come on. I know. Damn it. I know, and so I don't understand what's going on. And then this is having an issue. I don't get it. This is just not good. This has never happened before. Can I? Oh, okay. So now I believe we're back on live again. Holy moly. Oh my gosh. Yay! So thank you so much for your patience and understanding. We finally got back online here, and now we're going to get the right camera so Jean can show you all the close-ups of her knitting.
All right, so as I said, which you may have heard and maybe didn't, if you knit, do the knit stitch all one direction and all the way back again, your piece is going to end up looking like this. All right, kind of nubbly, and that way,
This way.
this way.
Your stitch. There you go. Now I can see it better. Yeah.
Okay,
Much better.
okay, great. All right, so that's that way. Then, if you, this is a typical sweater stitch, all right, called stockinette stitch. If you knit one row and purl one row, you'll get this. That's the right side. The back side looks like that. So it's really obvious to tell which side is which. Okay. On the first one we did, they're exactly the same. It doesn't make any difference.
Gotcha.
All right. Now, typical sweater cuffs or the bottom of the sweater is going to be knit one, purl one. So that's ribbing. There you go. That's ribbing. And if you do it as knit two, purl two, you're going to get that. And if you knit a stitch, purl a stitch, knit a stitch, purl a stitch, and then do the opposite on the other side, you get this one that's a moss stitch. That's the one I really wanted to try as knitting with wire, because I thought the texture on this, I think, is just really, really cool. Turns out, when you're knitting with wire, it doesn't really translate. What I want to show you is, okay, remember I showed you the difference between knitting needles, little guys, big guys. Here's a piece of wire knitting that I did. I believe I started with size 11 needles down here and worked my way up to about I think a 7 or an 8 up here. You can see the difference in size. Of course, you're shaping the wire around the knitting needle, and that's what determines basically the size of the stitch. With wire, you're not getting the evenness and predictability that you do with yarn. But that's kind of the fun thing about the wire, I think. All right, so let's get going with yarn, and we are going to learn to knit. First thing we're going to do is make a slip stitch. So coming around here, coming through the loop. There you go. That is your first stitch. Put this on our non-dominant hand. Non-dominant hand is using this needle, and that's sort of your carrier needle. It's like the warehouse needle, right? The working hand is your dominant hand. You can see the thread always comes from the non-dominant side, all right? I'm going to take my working needle in my working hand. I'm going to put it from left to right in the front. I'm going to kind of hang on to that tail right there with my remaining fingers. There's different ways of organizing your tension here with your other hand, but I like to do it this way. I get the yarn here, there, and then over the top of that finger. Okay. That gives me some fairly good tension now. All right, so I'm going to bring this, comes from here, bring it straight around the working needle and through that first loop, the first loop that we made with the slip knot. And take that stitch, put it on the reserve needle here. And there you go. Now we got 2 stitches. This is called casting on. We're going to, there's actually a couple of different ways of casting on. This is the one I like the best. This time we're going between the 2 stitches that are on there, all the way through. Same deal again, taking that thread and bringing it around the needle, and we're pulling it through. All right, so now got 2 stitches on the left-hand side, 1 on the right-hand side. I'm going to take and slip that guy right onto the warehouse side. All right, so now we have 3 stitches. Do the same thing again. Right in between the last 2 stitches. There we go. I pulled that a little bit tight. That's okay. Maybe too tight. So we'll just loosen it up a little bit. Okay. Give yourself some space, especially on the casting on. You do want to give yourself a little bit of space. Okay, we're getting there. Oh, come on. Just be difficult. There we go. Okay, over and through. A little bit there. All right. There we go. Okay, yeah, give yourself some space. Going in between the 2 stitches, around the back, and here. All right, what do we got on there? 5 stitches. We should have a couple more than that, otherwise you're not going to be able to see what we're doing. Do that again. Again. All right, so that should be 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. All right, ready to start the first row. So again, this is your warehouse side. The working side's over here on the right-hand side. We're going to knit this entire first row. So needle comes from the front on the left-hand side here towards the back of your first stitch. Now it's behind the warehouse needle, okay? Thread from here, going over the top of the working needle, pulling it through the loop. This time, this loop is going to stay on the working needle. All right, and we pull that first stitch off the warehouse needle. Okay. Going from the front toward the back, around, pull it through the loop, and take that second stitch off the needle. Okay. There we go. We're going to do the whole row. I'm going to show you how to purl, even though it turns out that with the wire work, I haven't gotten it to make any difference. Unfortunately, I would like to. I think a little more experimentation on my part might be the answer. I'd never discourage anybody from trying anything, but like I say, so far I haven't gotten the purling to work where it would make a difference in the way the wire work looks. That's the whole issue. Okay, right now we're gonna, right, we finished the row, okay. Oh, should have showed you that. Thinking of something else. Okay, we'll do another row. We'll just knit this one. All right. 1, 2, front to back, over, pull it off each time. Okay, now, okay, notice I'm switching hands. Now all the stitches here were on the working needle. Now that becomes the warehouse needle. Okay, over here, just turns right around. As long as your tail is down here and your working thread is over here, you're set to go. Now we're going to purl. This time, before, okay, for knitting, we put the needle this way. For purling, doing the opposite. We're putting it from the right-hand side toward the left-hand side. Still doing the same thing with our hand, though. All right. Okay, now we look like this. So working needle's in the front of the warehouse needle, and once again, the thread goes right over the top of this thing, through the loop, but through the loop from the back, and then pulls that first stitch off. Same thing again. All right. So coming in from the front, right to left, pull it off. And your working thread here is in the front this time, not in the back. That is purling. Right. Now we get to the point where we say, oh, our project is done. How am I going to get these things off the needle? We're going to cast off. Pretty much the opposite of casting on. First thing we're going to do is make like we're going to knit. Well, actually, we could slip that first stitch. Just slip it right onto this left-hand side needle, right onto your right-hand side needle. Sorry. We're going to knit the next stitch. Then you can do this 2 different ways. Really should use your knitting needle to do this. Come in with your non-dominant needle, okay? And pull that first stitch over. I only have 1 left on here, all right? Knit this guy. Tell you the truth, I'm more comfortable doing it with my fingers. I don't know why, but I am. So I usually have a fairly decent length on fingernails. Pull it over with my nails. However, we'll do it both ways. Okay. Get in there and pull it back over. A couple more to do. I'll show you how to finish it off. And this all works pretty much the same way with wire as it does with the yarn. With a few little exceptions. Well, not exceptions, just other things to keep in other things to keep in mind. Down to 1 stitch here, it just is going to stay on the needle, and you say, what the heck do I do with that? All right, so there's my last stitch. I'm going to pull that out. see that this end of the yarn is tight, all right? This end I could just keep pulling right off the ball of yarn, all right? So I'm going to take the ball, do another loop. So it's just another slip knot. Pull it tight. Once again, this one's loose, this one's tight. Figure out which one's my tight one. That's the one I'm going to cut. And there you go. So now I have a piece, pull that through. I have a piece of knitting that will not come apart. Now, if you were making a sweater or something, booties or something like that, you would then take a dull needle and you would weave these ends in so that they sort of disappear on the back side of the piece. All right, so there you go. That is knitting. Now, when we get to knitting with wire, I wanted to show you the various gauges of wire that I have found to be useful, all right? The scarf that you saw in the beginning was this 34 gauge. It's difficult to find. It's very, very thin wire. I mean, it's around, but it's harder to find. 28, easy to find. 26, the red piece that I showed you in the beginning is 26 gauge wire. However, I found it a little bit difficult to use. And 24, I just put on here so that you can see how the, I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference in the actual diameters of the wires, but there's a big difference when you're trying to wrap it around a needle and how hard you have to pull on it. Okay, the wire work, I got to tell you, is a little tough on the hands. I have some arthritis, and I can still do it. It's not a problem, but it's not. If you have knit in the past, you're not going to be knitting with wire for 8 hours. You might make a sweater for 8 hours, but you're not going to be knitting with wire for 8 hours. All right. So I wanted to show you a couple things that you can do with wire. That you're probably familiar with, that has nothing to do with knitting whatsoever. Okay, I'd made some just wrapped wire, or just did some wire wrapping around these things as pendants. Okay, made a pendant out of that, and let's see here. Oh, we're on that camera. Okay. Alrighty, this is Kumihimo with wire. All right, it's that actually was very intricate, and so is this piece too. That's not a finished piece, but kind of get the idea of it. And I've got a necklace here that's so. Those are things that we could possibly try in the future. Like I say, I'm not the wire queen, but it is really fun to use. The other technique is Viking Weave. And there is a little easier to incorporate beads. I have a lot of beads. And that is, you know, that there your imagination can just take you any place that you want to go. Really quite straightforward, quite simple to do. It's just a matter of learning the technique. Some call this, they call it Viking Weave, but some call it Viking knit also. It's a little bit like knitting. You're going to use these dowels and knit around this dowel with the wire. Yeah, oh, there we go. Okay, and same, different size dowel, more pegs, all right? And then once you get the piece done, you're gonna pull it through a drop plate. All right, so you start out, that's a 1-inch hole, and well, probably like this guy would start out, you'd probably start out through that guy right there. And then just keep pulling it down to as far as thin as you want to make it, to the point where, oh yeah, I've got one here. All right, these were really thin gauge wires that just turned into a cord instead of this really open weave here. Okay, so that's Viking net. All right. You can see that the wires come in all kinds of colors. Your best bet is going to the bead store to buy wire, because they've got the gauges there, and they've got the various gauges all laid out, and they've got all the colors laid out. You can find wire at the hardware store, and it's variable. It's variable. Whereas the stuff at the bead store is, you know, you can rely on that. Put it that
And
way.
it has the tarnish resistant coatings on it too.
True.
So that they
Right.
won't-
Right. Yep. All right. So let's get this stuff out of the way. And okay, I already showed you that. And oh, I did want to show you, let's see which.
I can change the color if you like. Hold on one second.
Camera. Do this guy here.
Yep, the one right in front of you now. There
Okay,
you go.
good deal. Okay, this is hemp. So hemp, a lot, somewhat similar to yarn, but anyway, you can add beads to this and knit and still get the flexibility. Okay, you can also add beads to, you know, like I did on my scarf, where I used the demis. This is 28 gauge, and I used 8s.
We do have a question about the gauge of the wire for the silver piece and the size of the needles for the silver piece.
Oh,
you were-
yeah, I was going to look that up this morning, because I do keep notes on all of my pieces.
And so the one in your hand, that's a gold, what?
Yeah,
what
this is the
gauge?
gold. Yeah, this is gold 28 gauge.
And what size needles did you use for the 28 gauge for that?
Size 8. Okay, yeah, these were size 8s.
Size 8 gauge needle?
Yep, yep. So these are these are 35s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, those are 35s. And so we're not doing that. Let's see, these are, okay, this one here is a 9. Yeah, in fact, I broke my 8s on this. I had plastic 8s from the 50s and 60s. And you have to, I'll show you in just a minute. You have to pull really hard on the wire when you knit this, and it just broke the needle right in half. So my 8s are history. Absolute history. All right. So yeah, there is a technique where you can put the beads on. Of course, you have to put the beads on the wire before you knit it. You can't. It's not an after effect. Yeah.
So,
all right.
that sounds way more complicated.
It's a little more complicated, and that's
So start first without beads.
start without beads first, and see what you're going to do with that. This piece, as an example, it's basically knitted on the bias, where you've got a decrease on this side and an increase on this side. And I was kind of thinking, okay, what you could do is curl it up and do something with it like that. And the wire has a sculptural, you know, something like that. It has a sculptural quality to it that you can form this and do whatever you want to with it. You're not stuck with making a sweater. Okay, don't think in those terms.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, we're knitting, but this is a different animal altogether. On your yarn, there it is. You've got some give to this. You've got some stretch to it. so that the piece will actually do this
Mhm.
with wire. You don't. There is no give to this whatsoever. So whatever you want it to do, you have to do it.
Mhm.
Okay, and it doesn't, what do I want to say? It has a memory, but not real strong. Okay, when wire is, I wanted to show you this too before we actually get to knitting. When wire is coiled, it's going to come off the spool with a little bit of a curl to it, just like your beading thread does. Okay, and you may be tempted to, I would definitely recommend getting these. Okay, this is the nylon jawed pliers. Definitely recommend these. Here's, however, what you don't want to do with them. You're saying to yourself, oh, geez, this has got a little bit of a curl to it. I want to get the curl out. Okay, so you say, I know what, I'm going to use my nylon jawed pliers and I'm going to straighten it. So here we go. We're going to straighten this. And usually, of course it didn't right now. Usually what happens is it curls up even worse than it was before. Okay, well that time it kind of straightened out. Most of the time, it gets curlier than it was when it came off the spool.
But getting the kinks out.
But for getting kinks out, that's another issue altogether. Because what will quite often happen when you're knitting with the wire, especially if you've got your spool sitting down by your hip or wherever you've got it, sometimes the wire will come up and it'll do a number like this and loop on you, okay? And as you're pulling that wire up to work with it, all of a sudden you've got this. Okay, kind of a mess, all right? The last thing you want to do is try and pull it this way. Okay, now we've got almost a knot there. Not helpful. That's pretty hard to get yourself out of. Okay. That happens to you. This thing starts to form. Okay, catch it before it gets to be a really, really tight loop. And again, use your nylon jawed pliers. Open this thing up carefully. Okay, and then straighten it. All right. And that is going to get the kink out. There you go. Okay. Let's see. Before we actually start knitting a piece, I want to show you what happens. Tell you what happened with this piece. I started with a spool like this, and I thought there was enough on there to do what I wanted to do. Ran out of wire. Okay. So it's off to the bead store to get some more. I didn't really have the time to do that, so the piece isn't finished. However, if you have to add another spool on there, how are you going to do that? I have a piece started here. I'll go to this one, Rochelle.
I will.
Okay, I have a piece started on here, and what I want to do is splice the red wire onto the steel wire. And I'm going to show you how to do that, or at least the way I like to do it anyway. And what we're going to do is use, these are my flat jawed pliers, my regular jewelry pliers that I have taped, okay? And you can see that the tape It's worn away pretty well, but I left the tape on there so you could at least see that that's with the wire here, I get a little more traction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by twisting these two together by hand, like you're doing an electrical splice. Okay. I'm going to really twist it together with the pliers. I'm going to take my flush cutters now and nip that off. Notice that I used wire flush cutters. I did not use my scissors, okay, to cut wire. Do not use your scissors to cut wire. You'd be very sorry if you did that because you're going to ruin your scissors. Okay, next thing we're going to do is these are the round nose pliers. I like to use those to just, you know, you could leave it like this and just knit this into the piece and you'd probably be okay. But I always kind of worry that this little pokey bit is going to poke you someplace. So I kind of want to make a loop here. Just sort of come around. Basically like that. Sort of form a little circle. There we go. Okay, now let's just knit along. We're going to do the same thing we did with the yarn, with one exception for me anyway. I have not been able to do this business over my hand with the wire and feel real comfortable with it. I've tried a whole bunch of times, but I can't do it. Maybe you can, I can't. Okay, I'm going to pull on that pretty tight. Come around here. We're just going to rather quickly knit this up so I can get to the join.
Do you switch cameras or do you?
No, this.
Okay. So it's like a medium tension or a really tough tension?
It's tough tension. It is tough. Yeah, see, I need to hold the working wire with these two fingers and kind of pull it off of there. All right, we're almost to that join here. There we go. I'm going to finish the row just because then I'm going to show you one other thing.
You have one request to speak a little louder.
A little louder?
Of your masks. There's a little bit of
Distortion. Okay. I can do that.
I don't think Zoom has a closed caption, but we'll think about that in the future. Normally we're in our own studios across the globe, and so we can do this differently, but we're jointly together in the studio today, so.
All right. Okay, so if you can see that, that's where the join is, and will be virtually impossible to see once this is all, you know, once you've got your piece made. So didn't come apart between the two things, not a problem. And and no pickiness, you know, I can run my fingers through this and not get scratched. There you go. Now, the next thing I want to show you with this, as long as I've got it on the needle, is a genuine knitter would have a stitch holder. Let's say, for example, you needed to use this pair of needles for something else, just like right now. Okay, and we haven't finished this project. Oh, Jesus, what are we going to do? Okay. Most people, like I say, if you do a lot of knitting, you're going to have a stitch holder, and you're just going to take the stitches off with this. Lower.
There you go.
There you go. Okay. So there you go. They're on the holder. That's it. They're not going anywhere. Okay. However, what if you don't have a stitch holder? This works just as well. The wire actually doesn't go anywhere either, if you're real careful. Okay, this works just as well, and it's super cheap. Okay, I've got some 1G on a beading needle here. And I'm just going to go through. Actually, I'm going to cut this off so it's not in the way. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to go under each stitch as though I'm purling it, really.
With just sewing thread.
Just sewing thread, yeah. Actually, I can take that whole thing off. Yeah, because they're not going anywhere. Through. There we go. And just make a loop. Okay, so here I am. Just made a big circle on this thing. And tie a square knot. Cut it off. There. So now those stitches are not going to go anyplace, because otherwise what they could do is, if you don't have this in here to keep them all together, this stitch has the possibility of running all the way down here. This stitch will run all the way down here. This is like a run in your stockings. That's why stockings run.
Oh, because of how they're woven.
Because it's knitted.
Okay.
It's knitted. Yeah.
And they start at the toe and work up?
I don't know where they start. I don't know where they start.
I mean, they start at the waistband and go down. Because there's the seam at your toe, right?
Yes, there is a seam at your toe. That's true.
Okay.
That's for shaping. Yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah, exactly. But each stitch will run straight down itself. Okay. And right now I'm not going to show you how to pick up stitches.
No, that's quite all right. We
get the idea,
right,
Yeah,
and so once again we have a question about adding seed beads while you knit. You add them before you start.
Before you start. Correct.
And so you would, if you have a wire spool,
Yep.
you would weave them off your wire and then rewire them back on a bobbin again?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. For example, on the scarf that I made, because that is, oh my gosh, that is, I'm sorry that I forgot to give you, I forgot how many yards is on this.
Okay,
thing.
on this scarf.
That scarf, yep, there is.
Because this is about 6 feet long, technically, right? And it's all
Yeah,
coiled around.
It's all
itself.
twirled around, right? There's a lot of wire in that. I think there's 6 or 7 spools of 34 gauge. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Spools. It is impossible to, you're not going to string all those beads and work with wire that long.
Right.
So I do recall that the wires were 65 inches long.
Okay.
And so I strung the beads on 65 inches and then just kept
Okay.
splicing after that.
And that's the
Yep.
same thing.
Same thing with that.
This
Right,
one.
right,
And
exactly.
so, because you added on beforehand, you just changed your colors, your beads.
Right, right. And then you can, you know, since the beads are, I don't have any beads with me right now. Since the beads are flexible on the wire, they just run on the wire. You decide when I want a bead on this stitch. And so I'm gonna put it on. It's like,
You just slide it.
just slide it up. Yep, that's all you do is just slide it up.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. And let's see if we took this on.
There's a couple beads.
There's a couple beads.
We have a few beads around the bead store.
Yeah, right. Okay. Here's some beads that are on here now. All right, that I just took off.
All right, here, let's put the zoomer camera up to see if we can get you a better close-up zoom.
Okay.
Wait, that's that camera. Do you want the other camera? We'll have the one right in front of you. There you go. Here's the super zoom camera.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw this. Back on this needle that's sitting right here. I don't think it's the right one, but that's okay. I'm just picking up these stitches here. Oh, we did fairly well with that. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we've got here. Knit the stitch. And knit the first one, and then I'm put a bead on the second one. All right. And all my beads are sitting. Where out of the way? All my beads are sitting right here. Okay, look them up. Okay, we're going to knit this guy, but we're going to put a bead on him. And the bead is going to go on the back side. Get it really close up there. Come around with thread, not the bead. And then pull the thread through. One more plain. And we're going to see where that bead ended up. Okay, the bead ended up. Jesus. Okay, right. You see that? It's right here. Let's see if we can do another one. Okay, here comes another bead. You can put them as close together, as far away as you like. That's why I think there's 4 rows in that gold piece that don't have beads. I just left them in reserve. I'm just going to pull this out here so you can see it. So those are the 2 beads that we just added right there. Okay, and they just sit right there.
Pretty cool.
And they're it's permanent. You know, they're not going anywhere, and they're not going to slide around the piece.
Okay.
Yeah, at all. All right. Now what we're going to do is start knitting the red piece. Get started on that. And then I've got a piece that's going partially, and we'll finish it. All right. So, oh gosh. Okay. Make a slip knot, just like we did with the yarn. Where it always looks a little bit wonky. But kind of, you know, wonky is, we like wonky. If you're a total purist, you probably won't care for this very much. All right, we're gonna, okay, to start this piece, we're only gonna put 2 stitches on. First one was our slip knot. The second one is just knitted on. And I will say, not only is the wire work a little more tiring on your hands, it's a lot more tiring on your hands, but it, especially if you're going to use aluminum needles, it's very slippery and takes a little more patience. Okay, so our first 2 stitches are on. We're going to knit the first 2. Turn that around. Now, what we want to do is pull on this. Okay, there's our tail thread. So I've got something to work with here. All right. Okay, this becomes a little more obvious as we do a couple of rows. Each time you do a row, you've got to pull it down. You don't have to do that with yarn, but you do have to with the wire because, again, it's wonky and it looks real weird. And it's almost hard to see. It's almost hard to see where the stitches are. All right, pulling that down. Okay, now we need to increase because obviously it gets wider as the piece goes up. So just come around and knit one extra one on there. There you go. And now we knit that one. So now there's 3 stitches on there. Had 2 before, now we got 3. All right. Knit that one, knit this one, knit this one. Okay, end of the row, pull it down. The other thing that I'm trying to do with this is, you know, when you're working with the yarn, it's a little easier to keep your attention, or your gauge, what they call it, gauge, because the needle is a particular diameter. This, the wire kind of has a mind of its own. And so what I want to do is, when I'm pulling this stitch off, making the first stitch, I don't want to see right down here into the throat where that stitch is. And if it's too loose, like that, okay, too loose, I'm going to tighten that baby back up again. Tighten her up. Okay, not real tight, because otherwise I can't get my needle in the next stitch. It helps to have a solid surface too underneath you. I tend to use the top of my thigh to balance, particularly your non-dominant needle on. It is quite a bit of pulling. All right. Now we're going to increase another stitch. So it's just add one on there and put it, instead of leaving it on the working needle, we're putting it back on the warehouse needle. Okay, so we just went from 3 stitches to 4 stitches. That guy. Check on, yep, he's okay. And the final one. All right. Okay, so pull it down again, and that's, that's the start of it. So when we get to the, I think I did,
You want to see that? I guess switch cameras. Hold on.
okay. Okay, we're back here, and we're going to do increases up the side. On one side only, of course. Okay, this side is knitted even all the way. No increases, no decreases. This side, we're going to increase one stitch every other row for, let's see, until I get to, what have I got? 1, 2, 10, yeah, 10 stitches. Okay, 10 stitches. So we're increasing from 2 stitches to 10 stitches. Get to here. Then what I do is take my needle and thread again and make a little, just make a loop there, and so I can see where, this is where I started knitting even, all right? Just a marker, and then I'm going to cut that piece of thread off at the end. Then I knit even 10 stitches for 14 inches. Get to here, certainly not going to increase, you need to decrease. All right, that's this piece over here. All right, this one, kind of going on a different.
Sorry, folks. There's the mid-range.
I need to get myself untangled anyway.
Yeah, that's this one right here.
Doesn't matter. Working on a different program. Only had one fish. So one vintage fish, but it did have some keys. And so I thought this one would be kind of cool. It's a gold wire with sort of a bronzy gold key. And then I thought, well, all right, what are we gonna do to jazz this baby up? Maybe we'll just run some 1/8 inch ribbon through here and kind of make a deal like that. So here's where we are now, is on the decrease end of it. Okay, so it's gonna look where we are now, all right? And let's see, can you see? I don't know if you see that little piece of thread right there?
Oh, yeah.
Can you see it? Okay, good deal. All right, that was my marker, so I know where to start measuring my 14 inches. Okay, so it's 14 inches from there to there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can start. Let's see, in traveling here, we've created a little bit of a kink. And we're gonna, oh, we're just about out of time. Okay, this will be quick. We're going to do one decrease and then turn it over to Rochelle. All right, get rid of the kink though first. Okay. So, to decrease, all I want to do is, this is just like casting off, same thing. I'm going to slip the first stitch. Don't put any new wire on that one, okay? No new wire. Pull it a little bit tight there. And I'm going to knit the next stitch. And then there again, it's easier for me to do it with my fingers, is to pull that first stitch that we slipped. And I'm going to pull it over the second stitch that we knitted. It's a little tricky. There we go. All right, so that's one less stitch on there. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oh, sorry, there's 12 stitches across here. Not 10. There's 12. All right, and then we just knit the next row even.
And then decrease again each on that
Every
one
other
side.
row. Every other row, because you're only on this side one time.
Gotcha. Right.
There you
right.
go.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're only there once.
You're only there once. That makes sense. And then when you're done, what do you do with the little tail of your wire?
Then back to the pliers again, and I'm going to just sort of weave it in so that it,
Mhm.
okay,
This
yeah,
one.
yeah, just kind of, you can almost do this with your fingers, is, bring it around. And it becomes virtually
of the project,
invisible.
right.
Yeah, virtually invisible. All right. And again, probably make a little turn in the end with round nose pliers.
Okay.
Yeah, just so there isn't a little
Nothing
sticky
pokey.
thing. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Yeah. So there you go.
Loads and loads of fun. Wow.
It is. It's really a different thing, and I think you can be super creative with this. I would just let your imagination go and see what happens.
Absolutely. No, it sounds so fun. Thank you so
Mhm.
much
You're
for
welcome.
sharing with us all your tips and tricks and techniques on basic knitting, wire knitting, and hopefully in the future we'll see more wire Kumihimo or Viking knit or some other different
Sure.
techniques. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds so great. Thanks so much, Jean.
You're welcome.
And so then we're just gonna switch some cameras here, and I'm gonna borrow one of her cameras, and we'll get to the compass rose is what I'm going to teach, and it's this really fun little earring pattern or pendant pattern. It looks like the compass on your map. And so it has the 4 in the center are the north, east, southwest, and then there are 8 beads surrounding the outside of it, which then have all your little parts, northeast, northwest, etc., for your compass. And you can make them into earrings, or you can hook them together and make them into a bracelet. And so I've made a whole bunch of them here, and they're really, really fun, simple to work up. They have a center that is a demi size 6/0, and then there's little spacer beads, which are size 11/0 demis. And then there's a couple accent beads, which are regular 11/0 beads. Otherwise, the gem duo is your main 2-hole bead in this project. And the 4 mil fire polish beads will capture them on the outside edge. And so it's really a fun little project here. That works up super quick. So let's just go to a close-up camera here. Oh, that's the wrong one. And go to this one. That way you can see a whole lot closer what we're going to do. And we're going to make this particular colorway because I find that using contrasting colors works really nicely to dissect the different directions, just like on the compass. And a little bit of contrast just sparkles it up a little bit as well. And it's a lot easier to see. So the gold matte beads in the center, that's a 6/0 demi. And the little shiny gold beads right next to it, that's the 11/0 demi. And then we have a bronze gem duo and a gold gem duo around the outside, and then a bronze 4 millimeter fire polish. And so it works up pretty quick and easy. And how we start is we're going to create with 4 size 6/0 demis, just the center of that bead. So it is a kind of just like you would start a right angle weave or something. It's 4 beads, and I like to match my thread to my beads that I'm using. So I'm using the Sand Ash Toho 1G thread today, which matches these gold perma finish size 6/0 demis pretty well. And so I'm going to use the sand ash today, and it takes about 1 yard of thread per earring. And so you can bead directly off your bobbin if you want to, or you can cut 1 yard of thread, and there's just one basic knot at the very beginning. So what we're gonna do is we have our 6/0 demis here, and we're gonna start with 4 6/0 demis. So put them on your needle and slide them down your thread so that you can leave yourself a good 8-inch tail to hold on to. And you're gonna weave in this tail to strengthen the core when you're done. So take your 4 demis, slide them down. I wrap them around my finger, and then I go back around from the beginning and pass through them all again. That way, they're going to form an X, and I'm going to run right into my tail now. So I'm going to tie a knot with my tail here. And then it's just basic, a square knot. So right over left, left over right. And this is pretty much the only knot you're going to tie in the whole project. You just want to get your tension really nice here. That way it stays perfect. So then in between these 4, we're going to add our next set of beads. So we've got our knot right here. I'm going to pass forward through 2 more of those 6/0 demis so that I'm directly across from my tail and I have something to hold on to. And I always work to the left. I like to move that direction. And so right now I'm flipping it over so that I can move the direction that's comfortable for me. So in between each one, what we're going to do is this is the next step. We're going to create and put a little tiny 11/0 demi, and then a gem duo, and then an 11 demi, and then we're going to pass through the next 6/0 demi in that base core. So if we want to go left around our circle, then these gem duos have 2 holes in them, one on each side. We're going to want to go through the left hole of the gem duo. So set the gem duo on your tray so that the dome top is upward. That way you'll go through the correct hole so that when they are on top of your piece, they're all going the same direction. So I'm going to add a little 11/0 demi, and then I'm going to go through the left hole of the bronze gem duo, and then 11/0 demi. And then I pass through the next 6/0 demi around my circle. And that's just going to sit right there in between the 2. So then I spin it around so I can get the right hold on it. 11/0 demi through the left hole of the gem duo, 11/0 demi, then back through your 6/0, and then it'll just wedge itself in there. Spin it again, and I always hold my thread around the finger and support it with the other finger behind it. That way it's out of my way, and I hold the tension the way I would like it. Because you don't want to splice your thread. So we're going to work our way all the way around. So just pass the tail without tangling up in it. And keep moving forward all the way around. This last one will wedge in there once you get it. It looks like there's not enough room, but once you pass through it, so that at the very end, pass through the 6/0 demi and pass forward through the next 11 demi and the first gem duo that you've got there. So we're just going to pass around that circle again a couple more times to make it secure. They're not going to fit quite in there until you do that. So only go through 2 beads at a time. You're kind of at a 45-degree angle with this. So just go through the 11-0 demi and the 6-0 demi, and then you'll go through the 11-0 demi and the gem duo and pass around the whole thing like that a couple more times so that this is nice and tight in your 4 center square. That way, when you move forward, it will be nice and tight. So then now, once it's nice and tight and you've gone all the way around, what we want to do is exit out of your gem duo before the 11-0 demi, because we're going to jump to the open hole. So you want to exit out from there, and then we want to go the other direction. So you want to go back the other direction through that open hole. So let me just quick thread my needle. And if anybody loses their thread at any time during your practice, here's an easy way to thread your needle. Just clean it nice and stiff, and it's right there between your finger. And then you set the eye of your needle onto the thread. So you're needling your thread instead of threading your needle. And so we're going to, again, we're right here. We're going to jump to the open hole. So you're going to go back the other direction that you were going the first round. So now what we're going to do on this round is create our second row of gem duos. So we have a bigger space in between the two than we do on the outside. So what you're going to add here is a little 11-0 demi, a gem duo, an 11-0 demi, 11-0 round, and then you're going to repeat that again, the 11 demi, gem duo, demi, and then go through the gem duo in the previous row. So it's just repeat all the way around, and those little 11-0 demis act just like spacers. So if we're going to go now the opposite direction, you want to make sure your gem duo is organized the correct way so that you go through the right hole. Because we're going the other direction. So make sure you pick it up correctly. So we're going through the right hole this time. And then we'll pass through the open hole of the gem duo, which is next in line around the circle. So if that tail gets in your way, just pull it down and hold on to it and use it as a tool to hold on to. And then get your thread out of the way. So once again, you're going to repeat that same sequence with the demis, the gem duo, the 11-0 in the middle, and then repeat it around again. And so this is a circular pattern, obviously, that works with actually quite a few different 2-hole beads. If you wanted to interchange it, the spacing would just be a little different. But because most 2-hole beads have universal spacing, you could use a variety different of 2-hole beads for this if you wanted to. Otherwise, we're just going around the whole thing, just like you did with the repetitive pattern. And after you get your last gem duo, so now we're going to pass through that, you want to then go through the 11-0 and the gem duo after, and we're going to repeat that and go around in the circle a couple more times. You're not going to add any more beads on this part of the circle. You're just going to reinforce it so that it's a lot stronger, and it's going to start to dome a little bit. So that's why I always put my middle finger and my thumb and just hold it to brace it. That way it naturally will dome up just a little bit, and you can go all the way around and get it all nice and tight. And so after it is all nice and tight from repeating all the way around, Then we're going to jump up once again to the open hole of the outside, and we're going to make the outside layer of our compass. It's pretty quick and easy and pretty repetitive. So if you're just going around in circles a few times, that's pretty easy to remember, right? And so when you go through these gem duos, they're kind of at a 45-degree angle. So don't try to go through too many beads at a time, because you're just going to bend or break your needle or bend or break a bead, and you don't want to do that. So I go through the ones in the middle, and then I go through the gem duo and the one right after. And just when you're connecting to the lower row, remember just 2 beads at a time, because you're at those 45-degree angles. And so it's, you don't want to put any stress on it. And medium tension is best, because if you pass around enough times, you will get the strength you need. If you pull too tight next to these 2-hole check beads, the inside of this bead may not be 100% polished, and they might be a little sharp. So you really don't want to pull too tight when you're working with thread and you're working with these sharp beads. So now we are all the way around a couple times, and we've come out once again in between the gem duo and the tiny little 11 demi. And we want to jump to the open hole of that gem duo so that we can now put the last layer around. And so I've got just a little bit different of a pattern depending on how we have our north, east, south, and west. That's the main 4 beads in the center. And I put an extra 11-0 in between for the spacing when it's at the 490 degrees. But I don't have that 11-0 when it's in between the northwest to northeast, that kind of, that in interior direction. So when you follow the pattern, we have, where are we? Here's my thread. So if I am right over one of the northeast, southwest 4 directions, that means I want to add the extra little embellishment, which is the 11-0 round. So we're going to add an 11-0 round, 11-0 demi, and then I'm going to add a fire polish, a 4mm fire polish, and then we reverse that exit. So the 11 demi, 11 round, and then pass through the next open gem duo. So just over the 4 direction, we have the extra little round embellishment. In between the extra one, we only are going to have a demi and a fire polish and a demi. And so that just gives a little extra point to the 4 directions. And it's the exact right amount of spacing needed to have a perfect dome. Not too much, not too flat, just a little bit. You can use a 4mm bicone, like a Swarovski bicone, if you wanted to, but those bicones are just a little bit smaller than a fire polish. The fire polish is a little longer. And so I would recommend adding that extra 11-0 bead as your substitution if you want to use a bicone crystal, and that'll take up, and you'll do it on each one instead of skipping like we're doing here. And so you can alternate the pattern to your preference. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to make sure the measurement is right so that it doesn't cup up too much or it doesn't lay too flat. So it's easy to try it. The 15-0 seed beads are a little bit too small and they're a little bit too tall. So the demi seed bead is actually the perfect spacing. The 11-0 demi is shorter than a 15-0, but the same hole size as the round 11. So it's much easier to use. You don't have to change needles. You can pass through it multiple times for ease. So that's why these little 11 demis make great accent spacers instead of having to downsize to a 15. So see, we just went all the way around the whole thing, and now it's got just a little bit of a dome. And then all you do is pass once again through all the beads to tighten her up. Just make her nice and tight so that it is not too tight, but not too loose. And remember, you can't go through all the beads at a time. You're gonna have to go through like the 11-0 and the fire polish, and then you'll have to go back down through. So now when we're out of, we finish going all the way around, if you want to make it into a cute little earring, then we just want to create this little bridge right here, which goes up, and you can do it a couple different ways. This one here, I used another 6/0 demi as my ear wire loop. Otherwise, you could make just the 6-bead loop for your ear wire to go through if you wanted to. You have options here because of these great beads. What we're going to do on this one is show you how to make the cute little demi loop. That way your ear wire hooks right to the 6/0 demi, and it's a glass jump ring, and the ear wire hangs a little bit straighter than having those little 6-bead loop-de-loops is what I call them. But it's just a much nicer, cleaner look, I think. And so adding the different ear wire versus the 6-bead loop. And your ear wire is now hanging on a bead versus hanging on the thread, which makes a difference. So when I'm making that little part on the top, I exit out of the demi just after the fire polish that is at one of the 4 directions, because I want my compass, I want true north to be true north, right? So we are going to add 4 little 11-0 demis, 1 11-0 round, and 4 demis, and then we're going to come back down through the demi that's on this side of the fire polish. And I'm going to make just a circle loop so that I can come back out to the center of this demi. So these little demis, when you stack them up close to each other, look kind of like metal almost. They're so unique and tight. And this is the perma-finish gold that I'm using here. And so it really does look like metal. So I'm just going to loop around and go through this fire polish and then come back right where my thread to start. So it's the base of my ear wire loop. And the accent on the top is the same 11-0 round. So I'm going to come back out that 11-0 accent on the top. And then I want to add in a little 11-0 demi and my 6-0 round on the top. And then I'm going to turn around and go back through the demi. So I'm just going to do a loop. So you'll see a tiny bit of thread on this demi, but that's also why I match my thread color to my 6/0 demis that I'm using. That way you don't really notice it at all. So when I come back down through the 11/0 demi, I came out of this side of my center accent bead. So now go through the other side so that your top demi sits straight. And then we're going to pass back through just like we did around this circle to tighten my little ear wire. And we'll go right back up again the top. Just to do that again, just so that my ear wire lays straight, it lays tight. And we go up through the 11/0 demi, through the 6/0, because you're just looping around it. And then back through the 11/0 demi. That's kind of like your spacer accent to hold it on there straight. If the thread gets a little off center, you can shift her down just fine. There we go. We pulled. And then once again, we went in that side, so we're going to go out the other side. And then what I usually do is go around the whole outside again. So I go through the 11-0 and I'm going the other direction this time. So that way it will cross strengthen this part at the top and we can get it all nice and tight. And then you've got your loop at the top where you can hang on to your ear wire, and it's a fun little compass rose pair of earrings. If you wanted to, you could make a bracelet out of this neat little pattern. You wouldn't put on your ear wire loop. You would just start beading off of it however you decided you wanted to bead off of it. It's really a fun, easy pattern. Or you could connect a few of them together. And then how I did here is they just shared the join between the two. So I made the first one, and then as I was making the second one and coming around the outside, I just connected with the fire polish from the one before that, and then just continued my way around. And so it's a really, kind of versatile little link. So you can make a whole bunch of links. So you can make a necklace or bracelets. It's a lot of fun. This one here, I have started to do a little bit of right angle weave just off of the edge because this is going that direction. So I took my 6/0 demis, and so I was going to make the branch of the bracelet right off of that, or maybe it could be a necklace. There's a million possibilities of what to do with these cute little medallions. You can tell I've been watching a lot of Tudors on HBO. Everything is gold and very fancy, and Henry VIII would be all over this. And so it really is a lot of fun. So once again, it only takes 1 yard of thread, and you start with just the basic little 4 6/0 demi beads, and pass through them again, and then tie your knot so that it's nice and taut. And then you are going to add, to go around it again, a little 11/0 demi, and then a gem duo, and then 11/0 demi, and pass through everything again and go all the way around, all the way around, all the way around. Then we're going to jump to the open hole, and you will then create the second level. So when you're creating the second level, you remember you're going to go the opposite direction. And so make sure that your little gem duos, that the tops are up. So lay them down on your tray correctly so that they you'll pick up the right hole each time, and you won't have some upside down and some backwards and forwards. And so then at the very end, you are going to jump to the open hole again, and then you're going to add a fire polish in between each one. And that way you're going the opposite direction once again. And so just secure, secure, secure. You can use Fireline for this or Nanofill, but use like a 4-pound if you do. And just be careful on, because it gets really thick. These beads use a size 11 Toho needle, and the Fireline gets a little thick. So I do actually like the 1G a little bit better. And there's a little bit of stretch in it too. So then after you're done with the whole component, you've got this little tail hanging out here that we started with. And I always take my tails and I weave them back in through the center. And so remember that knot at the beginning, that's the only knot that we're ever gonna make in this, because I do think that you don't need it. It's just a little earring. And if you are making it into a bracelet, then you're gonna be sewing through this a whole bunch of other times anyway to add the rest of the embellishments. So you really need to be able to get through. So what I'm doing with my tail is I'm just going the opposite direction of where I started, and I am passing through the center core to make it a lot tighter. So I pass through just the little 11-0 and the demi, and then the 11-0 and the gem jewel, because you're at that funny 45-degree angle. So it's not always super easy. So just tilt it backwards and make it dome a little bit if you're having a little bit of trouble getting through there. And then after you have gone around and around again with your tail, then I just trim off my tail, and it's a great way to hide it. And then my working thread, I do the same thing. I just continue around, around, around again with my working thread. And so it's a pretty fun little project to make that you can do. And sometimes the colors that you use will just change the project entirely. This one is super pink and gold, almost a amethysty tone, and it gives it a very light and airy component. But if you go nice and black and dramatic, then it creates a whole different feeling. And using the bronze demi 6.0 mixed with this jet, it just kind of has a little bit more antique-y look as well.
A lot of drama.
A lot of drama.
A lot of drama there.
Yeah. Well, first I went through the white princess, then I went through the Spanish princess, then I did the whole Tudor series. So, I guess I've been binging a lot of TV lately. So that's why we've got all these golds and drama. And of course, I love turquoise. So that's why, a little bit of turquoise here and there goes a long way. But the Compass Rose pattern is a fun little pattern. And you can get it on our website in the Toho. In the bead pattern area of our website, and all the different check beads we've got here as well. Let's get on the right camera here. And it's so all the little check gem duos are all in the check section, and the 6.0 demis are and the 11.0 demis are all there as well. And so you can get the pattern if you want, and we would love to help you out with all your bead needs. The demis come in a retail container of 7.8 grams, or it comes in a wholesale bag of 50 grams. So the 6.0 demis, especially a 50-gram bag, will get you pretty far. I made my bracelet here with the demis. This is a tri-demi weave, and so I use the 6.0s as the base, and then the 8.0s and the 11.0s, and it worked really well as the bracelet for the Compass Rose. And that's also a free pattern you can get on our website. We have a lot of them, but the demis are a very useful new bead. It's super unique. If you're not familiar with it, I would recommend trying it out. It's the same hole size and diameter as its friend, the regular 6.0 round or 8.0 round or 11.0 round, but they're exactly half as tall. So it's a perfect little spacer bead to fit in there. And it comes in, the 6 O's come in about 50 colors and the rest are about 100 colors. So they're the same stock numbers as your favorite Toho beads, but they are not, they don't have the whole selection, sorry, but there's quite a few of your favorites there. And so you can incorporate in them. And so try them with all your stitches. They will turn out all your favorite stitches, turn out just a little bit differently. They might be bigger and open, more weave, lacy looking, or they might be really tight, compact, and more metal looking. And so it's just a super versatile, especially instead of using a demi bead or a 15-0 bead, use a demi for all your little accents. And they create a different texture and everything. And so just about anything, you know, you can do with a round, you could do with a demi as well. And so we really would like to encourage you to use more demi beads and just give it a try. Don't be scared. And so, but yeah, the size 11 Toho needles work the best because they're a little bit flexible and you can get through there 6 or 8 times like you normally could. And then but the size 10 needles are a little too rigid. So remember, match your thread to the 6/0 demi in the center, and then you won't see it at all. And when you got Fireline, it only comes in black or white. So that's why I really recommend the 1G is a much better thread. So, if there's any other patterns you would like to see, we're definitely going to be doing our beading Saturdays once a month. So our next beading Saturday is January 16th. And I think I'm going to be doing the peace ring. The peace ring has been held over, extended for another year. The project that we're trying to bring peace through the world through 1 gram of beads. And so catch us on January 16th for our next beading Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. I will have 2 more guests with us. Jean is actually wearing a couple peace rings. So I'm going to switch camera here so that we can show a close-up. Oh, that's the wrong camera. I'm so sorry. Here's the right camera. And so here's the peace rings. She's got 3 of them here stacked up. And these use the Toho Aiko beads. And this is a fun little stitch, which is a combination of ladder stitch and brick stitch. And kind of very repetitive, but it's super fun. It's the only unbreakable ring I've ever come up with, been ever seen. I've broken every other ring I've ever made. So on the 16th, we'll be doing the peace ring, and then part of the peace ring is a charity, so that if you make one and you take a picture of it and post it on social airwaves and hashtag Toho Peace Ring, then the Toho company will donate $1 for every hashtag that they get throughout the year. So it's been extended a whole nother year through the Day of Peace, August 6th next year. And so we'll have a couple more guest artists. And then catch us at the Upper Midwest Bead Society meeting on January 4th. We are going to be having Marsha Weist-Hines is going to be teaching a whole different view on bezeling, all different types and levels of bezeling, how to integrate different beads, different sizes, and create unique bezels in a whole different way. So that is our Upper Midwest Bead Society monthly meeting. And you could join our bead society. It's really easy. There are information on how to join us on our UMBS Facebook page, or you could go to umbs.org and find out the rest of the information. It's only $30 a year to join us, and we've been meeting through Facebook virtually. And we're Zooming all of our classes so everybody can stay home safe and Zoom with us and stream them through Facebook and watch all of our classes. And so I really hope that you will join us again for the future. And if you'd like to see anything in particular on Saturdays, learn something new, please message us through the UMBS Facebook page and let us know what you want to see. Or if you've got something you would like to share, we would love to have you as one of our Saturday presenters to join me. And so you can message us that too. We would love to have you join us and show what you like to make and your creativity so that we can inspire others to continue the fight. Bring peace and joy through the world through beating is basically our motto, right? And so we really appreciate that you've come and joined us and hope everybody has a happy and safe holiday. And so you can find us once again at bobbyb.com. If you have any other questions, we have a full YouTube channel and links to all our video tutorials, and there's many more video tutorials there as well. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you again. Bye.